Emperor Georgiou knew Burnham's Star Trek Discovery Captain future before Michael did, and I'm not surprised. When it comes to Star Trek Discovery, Michael Burnham has had more than her fair share of unexpected twists in her career path, from mutineer to science officer to captain of the USS Discovery in the 32nd century. But there's one thing I'm convinced of. Emperor Filippo Georgiou, the ruthless, cunning, and surprisingly protective Terran counterpart to Captain Georgiou, knew exactly where Burnham's future was headed long before Michael herself did. And honestly, I'm not surprised. Why? Because Emperor Georgiou's unique perspective, combined with her intimate understanding of Burnham's strengths and flaws, put her in a position to see the trajectory of Burnham's destiny clearer than anyone else on the crew. The Mirror Universe Empress didn't just see Michael as a talented officer, she saw her as someone who could command, someone who could lead, and someone who would one day wear the captain's chair like it was tailor-made. And whether Michael realized it or not, every interaction she had with Georgiou in Discovery was a subtle push toward that inevitable future. The Mirror Universe advantage. The Georgiou we got to know best wasn't the warm, compassionate Prime Universe captain who mentored Burnham before the Battle of the Binary Stars. She was the Mirror Universe version, an empress who had clawed her way to power through blood, deception, and sheer dominance. This version of Georgiou knew exactly what it took to survive, and more importantly, to lead. Where Starfleet captains are taught to balance diplomacy and strategy, Emperor Georgiou's leadership was forged in an environment where weakness meant death and loyalty was always negotiable. She recognized ambition in people the way a wolf recognizes another predator. And she recognized it in Burnham almost instantly. It's easy to forget, but in the Mirror Universe, Georgiou had her own Michael, a fiercely loyal daughter figure who was also ruthless and cunning. Even though Prime Burnham was far more idealistic, Georgiou could see the raw leadership traits were still there: courage, adaptability, and the ability to make the hard calls when no one else could. By the time the two returned to the Prime Universe, Georgiou didn't need years of observation to see where Burnham's Starfleet career should end up. She had already seen the captain inside her. Burnham couldn't see past her own mistakes. The irony is that Michael herself didn't see it, at least not for a long time. Her self-image was still wrapped up in the guilt and consequences of her mutiny aboard the USS Jeorgiou. In her mind, she had forfeited any right to command the day she disobeyed Captain Georgiou's orders and sparked the Klingon War. That's what makes Emperor Georgiou's foresight so interesting. She didn't care about Prime Starfleet's rules or redemption arcs. She cared about capability. From her point of view, Burnham's mutiny didn't disqualify her from leadership. It proved she could take decisive action under extreme pressure. That ability to act, even when it's controversial or dangerous, is what separates commanders from followers in Georgiou's worldview. To her, Michael's biggest mistake was actually evidence she had the instincts of a captain. And let's be real, Georgiou had no patience for self-doubt. Whenever Burnham questioned herself, Georgiou was there with cutting remarks, sarcastic encouragement, and the occasional backhanded compliment, all aimed at shaking Michael out of her hesitation. Mentorship through tough love. If Prime Georgiou nurtured Burnham with trust and kindness, Emperor Georgiou's version of mentorship was more like forging steel. She put Burnham in situations where she had to make life or death decisions without a safety net. She constantly reminded her that sentiment could be a liability. And she challenged Burnham to think beyond the Starfleet handbook and consider the bigger game. In many ways, Georgiou acted like she was training a successor, not in the sense of ruling the Terran Empire, but in the sense of preparing someone who could handle the crushing weight of ultimate responsibility. Think about their mission in Season 3 to the Mirror Universe. Georgiou didn't just want to save her own skin from the temporal sickness problem. She also wanted Burnham to see what leadership without Federation ethics looked like, to broaden her understanding of power. Georgiou's lessons were never about making Michael into another Terran despot, but about giving her the mental flexibility to navigate situations Starfleet protocol couldn't solve. That's exactly the kind of thinking that makes a great captain, especially in the unpredictable chaos of the 32nd century. The "I've seen your potential" moment. There's a subtle but telling moment in Discovery Season 3 where Georgiou essentially acknowledges she knows Burnham's future better than Burnham does. It's when Georgiou starts talking about legacy, hers and Michael's. She doesn't spell it out, but there's a tone in her voice that says, "You're going to be in charge one day, whether you admit it yet or not." It's that same vibe you get from someone who's been playing a chess game 5 moves ahead the whole time. Georgiou's entire approach to Michael suggests she saw the captaincy not as a possibility, but as an inevitability. She had zero illusions about Starfleet's bureaucracy. She knew Burnham's record would slow things down. But Georgiou also knew that when the galaxy threw a crisis at the Federation, Michael's mix of empathy and ruthlessness would make her the obvious choice for command. Georgiou's exit was the final push. When Georgiou left in terra firma to live out her days in her own time and place, she didn't just walk away. She left Burnham with parting words that were basically a coded pep talk for the rest of her life. She told Michael to stop being afraid of who she was, to trust her instincts, to remember that the people who mattered would follow her willingly, not because of rank, but because of loyalty and respect. That's the kind of advice that sticks with you, the kind that echoes in your head when you're sitting in the captain's chair making a call no one else has the nerve to make. In a sense, Georgiou's departure removed the safety net Burnham didn't even realize she still had. Without Georgiou there to challenge her at every turn, Michael had to step fully into her own authority. By the end of Season 3, when she finally accepts the captaincy of Discovery, you can practically hear Georgiou's voice in the background saying, "About time." Why, I'm not surprised she saw it coming. Here's the thing, leaders like Georgiou, especially from the Mirror Universe, survive because they're experts at reading people. They spot strengths, weaknesses, and potential in seconds. She didn't just believe Michael could be a captain, she calculated it. She analyzed her adaptability, her willingness to break rules for the greater good, her ability to inspire loyalty, and her growing confidence. In Georgiou's mind, it wasn't a gamble. It was a sure thing waiting for the right set of circumstances. And because Georgiou never subscribed to Starfleet's wait your turn mentality, she wasn't bogged down by Michael's past or the idea that she needed to serve in the shadows forever. To Georgiou, the only question was when Burnham would take command, not if. The legacy lives on. By the time Michael Burnham takes the captain's chair at the end of Season 3 and carries that role into Season 4 and beyond, she's already embodying much of what Georgiou tried to instill in her: decisive leadership, creative problem-solving, and the ability to inspire her crew even in the darkest situations. Sure, Burnham's St.